Welcome to Revenza Tales, where betrayal stories and fiery comebacks light up your passion. Smash subscribe, ring the bell, and share with those who battle for their truth. Think of your ideal wedding taken over by a controlling mother-in-law who seeks to dictate your future. How would you fight for it back? Hold on for a story of rebellion, lies, and unbreakable determination. My name's Savannah Brooks, and I never imagined I'd have a meltdown over a wedding dress. But one afternoon in a Charleston bridal shop, gazing into the mirror, I felt my heart shatter. Instead of the cool, off-the-shoulder gown I'd spent months selecting, a dress that made me feel as if I could conquer the world, I was suffocating in a choking, heavy lace monstrosity from another era. The high collar was scratching against my neck. The faded silk had the faint scent of mothballs, heavy as a threat. My soon-to-be mother-in-law, Margaret Wentworth, Maggie to her blue-blooded friends, stood behind me, smile slicing like broken glass. "Isn't it stunning?" Maggie said, voice heavy with southern drawl. "My great-grandmother wore this in 1890. 4 generations of Wentworth brides made their way down the aisle in this. Caleb will be so proud to see you carry our tradition." The owner of the boutique, Miss Clara, toyed with the endless train, not meeting my gaze. Her restless hands said it all. Maggie had arranged for this trade, likely with her money and gracious words. I'd grown up in a tiny Georgia town, struggling along with my mom after Dad walked out when I was 6. I'd battled for every break, art school, my graphic design career, a fresh start in Charleston. That dress I'd picked out was more than material, it was my vow to never allow anyone to make me feel insignificant again. And Maggie had taken it away. "Where's my dress?" I demanded, my voice even though the fire was raging in my chest. Maggie wafted a manicured hand. "Oh, sweetie, I had them bring it back. That newfangled thing was all wrong for a Wentworth wedding, too flashy. This is classic, suits St. Philip's Church perfectly." I caught Miss Clara's eye in the mirror. She turned away, looking guilty. My hands trembled as I went to dial Caleb on my phone, but Maggie's grasp on my wrist froze me. Her manicured nails bit into my wrist. "We don't need to disturb Caleb," she said, voice saccharine but with an underlying hardness. "He's working at the office, and he leaves things up to me on these things." I saw it then, the flicker of triumph in her eyes, as if she just won a game I hadn't realized we were playing. This wasn't tradition, it was control, dictating my wedding, my future, my life. I'd seen my mother break under others' demands, and I'd promised I'd never do it myself. But drowning in Maggie's heirloom, I felt that old fear rise up. What if I wasn't strong enough to resist her? I gritted a smile, lips clenched. "You're on, Maggie. Allow me to take a second to appreciate the finer points." Her eyes tightened, feeling something, but she nodded and strutted out of the fitting room, heels clicking on wood. Alone, I took out my phone, taking pictures of all the dated seams, all the smothering layers. And then I texted Tessa, "You won't believe what Maggie's done. Meet me at the Rusty Anchor in 30, bring whiskey." Looking at my face in the mirror, I made a decision. Maggie wished to have some games, but I wasn't the girl from the small town that she could steamroll. I had fought too hard to have her re-author my narrative. If she desired a fight, I'd give it to her, and I'd play to win. That night, I paced in our Charleston downtown apartment, soft feet slapping hardwood. The pictures of Maggie's wedding gown scorched in my phone, but her words, "Caleb trusts my judgment," continued cycling. I waited for hours for Caleb to return from Wentworth Properties, Maggie's real estate empire. When he entered, tie undone, laptop under his arm, I didn't hesitate. "Your mom traded my wedding dress for some old relic," I said, arms crossed. "I spent months searching for the perfect dress, and she deleted it without permission." Caleb barely glanced up from his laptop. "Savannah, come on. Mom's just trying to make the wedding special. You know how important family tradition is to her." "Special?" I ceased pacing, my voice rising. "She didn't consult me, Caleb. She went behind my back. This is not about tradition, it's her making the decisions." He let out a sigh, slamming his laptop closed. "Look, perhaps we can compromise. Dress in her dress for the ceremony, then switch into yours for the reception. Problem solved." Before I could protest, my phone vibrated, a text from Maggie. "Darling, I've added the guest list with the most important Charleston families. Don't worry about additional expenses. Wentworth Properties will take care of it." I glared, gut churning, and shoved the phone at Caleb. "See this? She's not just choosing my gown, she's rewriting our wedding. And what's this nonsense about her paying for it? We were going to split everything with your parents. Caleb's face reddened. He stood, abruptly fixated on reorganizing books on our coffee table. Well, with some adjustments at work, Mom volunteered to pick up more. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? My voice fell to a whisper. How much do we owe her, Caleb? His silence shouted the truth. I remembered Maggie's superior smile, her nails pressed into my wrist. This wasn't just a dress or guest list, she was purchasing our future. I'd seen my mother lose herself to debt and meaningless jobs, always at someone's whim. I'd sworn I'd never do that. But here I was, caught up in Maggie's trap, and Caleb wouldn't or couldn't notice. The doorbell sliced through the air, sudden and crisp. Caleb dashed to open it, needing to get out. Maggie's voice wafted from the hallway, as sweet tea, preceded by her click of designer heels. Oh good, you both made it, she swept in, toting a leather planner the size of a Bible. I've been seeing the wedding planner. We have to go over adjustments to the ceremony. The minister at St. Philip's has objections to your non-traditional vows. I caught sight of myself in the window, white as a ghost, fists curled, and reflected behind me, Maggie's purse, spread open on the entry table. Inside, I caught a glimpse of her leather notebook, the one she brought to her socialite sessions. My heart was racing. If Maggie was playing dirty, I had to know how far she'd go, and that journal could provide the answers. One morning, at another smothering planning session at Maggie's lakeside mansion, I saw my opportunity. She'd left her bag on the kitchen island while dictating to the florist about centerpieces. I trembled with my hands as I stuck the journal in my bag, heartbeat thudding like I'd just stuck up a bank. I muttered an apology about needing fresh air and headed to a secluded area near the battery, the journal searing a hole in my passenger seat. Browsing through its pages made me ill. Maggie's precise script set out her game plan. Caleb's technology company venture is irresponsible. Steal money from him, keep him beholden. Savannah's wedding dress is inappropriate. Exchange for family heirloom to guarantee cooperation. Guest list needs to be that of Charleston aristocracy. Use wedding to find alliances. My breath caught. She wasn't just controlling our wedding, she was orchestrating our lives, tying Caleb to her empire, molding me into a Wentworth puppet. I snapped photos of every page, hands steady now, and texted Tessa, we're not just fighting for a dress, this is war. Maggie's journal revealed her playbook, page after page of control, rooted in her husband's death and her own mother's iron grip. Persuaded Caleb to remain at Wentworth Properties, better for the family reputation. Savannah's too self-reliant, her small-town upbringing makes her inappropriate for Caleb, need to draw attention to her shortcomings. The gallery opening was a blunder, called prominent buyers to cancel, her artwork's too risky for our reputation. She wasn't simply interfering, she was manipulating our lives like a game of chess. I had always known Maggie was fussy, but this was something different. Growing up, I'd seen my mom controlled by her boss's whims, dreams buried under someone else's rules. Maggie's journal wasn't just a record, it was a weapon, smothering Caleb's dreams, Harper's talent, and my place in their family. My anger mixed with resolve. I wasn't just fighting for my wedding anymore. This was about breaking Maggie's hold on all of us. My phone buzzed. Caleb, where are you? Mom's losing it over her lost journal, claims it's private. I'd bet on that. I messaged Tessa, I found Maggie's playbook, it's worse than we imagine, I'll meet you at your house. Driving through Charleston's shaded streets, the journal on my lap, I knew there was no turning back. Maggie had set a boundary, and I was prepared to cross it. That evening, in our city apartment, I sat Caleb down, the journal on the coffee table open. Read this, I said, gesturing to pages of his startup and my unsuitability. My heart was racing, hoping he'd understand what I saw. Caleb's eyes ran through the pages, but his expression set. You ripped out her personal journal, Savannah, that's low. Mom's only trying to look out for us. You're making a big deal about nothing. Look out for us? I laughed, acrid. She murdered your aspiration to begin your own business. She's sabotaging Harper's artwork. She's attempting to erase me. How is that protecting me? He paced, standing, the hardwood floor groaning with each step. You don't understand our family. She's been there for us every time, particularly after Dad passed away. You're making her the villain because you can't belong. His words stung like a slap. I'd worked years building a life that I could be proud of, showing that I was more than the small town that bred me. But to Caleb, I was a foreigner, and Maggie's strings were tighter than I'd ever known. If you can't tell that she's manipulating you, Then I don't know if I can do this, I said, breaking into a sob. Then maybe you shouldn't, he fired back. If you're going to hurt my mom, perhaps you don't deserve to be in this family. I took my bag and the journal, hot tears burning in my eyes. You're right, I don't fit in her cage. I got out of there, driving to Tessa's small apartment in North Charleston, the city's palmetto trees whizzing by. She poured me a whiskey, listening as I cried out my pain, anger, and fear that I'd lost Caleb forever. You're not the one who's lost, Tessa growled, voice fierce. You've got the truth now, use it. Huddled alone in Tessa's guest room, I'd opened my laptop. The novel I'd been fiddling with seemed irrelevant. Instead, I began to write something different. The day I understood my future mother-in-law was controlling our lives was the day I was submerged in her great-grandmother's wedding gown. Words spilled out, raw and real, fired up by every second Maggie attempted to shatter me. This wasn't a tale, it was my battle, and I wasn't letting up. A week or so later, still bunking at Tessa's, my laptop was the sole constant. My bank account was locked up, Maggie's work, no doubt, due to suspicious behavior. My literary agent, Leah, phoned, voice strained. Maggie's team called, they're threatening to abandon your project, labeling it slander. Let them do their worst, I replied, jaw clenched. I'm not giving up. Tessa slipped a coffee down her kitchen counter. You're tougher than you appear, Georgia girl. I smiled, but my fingers trembled as I typed. Maggie's reach was long, even infiltrating my manuscript files, leaving remnants. Then Hopper phoned, voice trembling. Mom called my largest buyer, berated my new collection, told them it was too experimental for Charleston. That's why they canceled my show. I could hear her children laughing over a board game in the background. Harper, I found evidence in her journal. She's been pulling this on you for years, on Caleb as well. We can put an end to it. A hesitation. I want to trust you, Savannah, but I'm afraid, she's my mother. I know, I said quietly. But your children deserve a mom who can be herself freely, so do you. That evening, Harper's children arrived at Tessa's with a duffel bag of toys. Harper had received a last-minute meeting with a prospective buyer, and Maggie was threatening to ruin it. While I assisted Lily, her 6-year-old, in coloring a unicorn, she asked, "Why is Grandma so bossy?" I didn't know how to respond, but her question ignited something within me. This wasn't only my battle, it was for Harper, her children, and even Caleb. I sat down at my laptop and recreated my memoir in my head, word by word. One night, writing in Tessa's living room, the doorbell rang. There was Caleb, face worn but resolute, looking over Harper's kids constructing a blanket fort. "We need to talk," he said. "Mom's lawyer sent a cease and desist to your agent. They know about your book." I folded my arms, journals safely stowed in my bag. "Good, let them try to stop me." "Savannah, this is serious," Caleb said. "Mom's willing to let it go if you apologize and give back her journal." "Drop what?" Tessa interrupted, stepping into the space beside me. "The fact that she's been controlling your life, or the way she's got you so bound to her money you can't stand up for Savannah." Caleb's face turned red, but before he could answer, Max, Harper's 8-year-old, chipped in from the fort. "Grandma tells Savannah you're too selfish to marry you, Uncle Caleb." The room fell silent. Caleb did not correct him. That silence broke something in me. I'd loved him, dreamed of us being together, but he was still Maggie's puppet. "Get out," I said, tightening my laptop as a lifeline. "And tell your mom I'm not apologizing. Some stories need to be told." Once he'd gone, I sat with the children, helping rebuild their fort. Lily crawled onto my lap, fussing with my engagement ring. "Why is Grandma so nasty at times?" "She's afraid," I said, even to myself. "Sometimes people grip too hard because they fear letting go." My phone buzzed. Harper, buyer adored my work, but Mom called them, meeting cancelled. "I'm finished letting her win." I glanced at the kids' pure faces, my laptop where my memoir took form. This wasn't all about me. This was about ending a cycle that would hurt them, too. I continued to type, the Charleston Harbor salt air wafting in through Tessa's window, stoking my determination. Maggie believed she could shut me up, but I was crafting a weapon. My story, my truth, and I'd see to it that it was heard. "Grandma says Savannah's too selfish to marry you, Uncle Caleb," Max stated from the blanket fort. The room fell silent. Caleb said nothing to correct him. That quiet shattered something within me. I had loved him, imagined a life together, but he remained Maggie's puppet. Get out, I told him, holding my laptop like it was a lifeline. And tell your mom I'm not apologizing. Some stories must be told. Once he'd gone, I sat with Harper's children, rebuilding their fort in Tessa's North Charleston apartment. Lily, 6, climbed onto my lap, tugging on my engagement ring. Why is Grandma mean sometimes? She's afraid, I said, astonishing myself. Sometimes, I told myself, people keep things too close because they don't want to let them go. My phone vibrated. Harper. Buyer loved my work, but Mom called them, meeting cancelled. I'm not going to let her win anymore. I thought of Lily and Max's sweet faces, my laptop where my book was unfolding. This wasn't about me, it was about ending a cycle that might harm them as well. A month had passed when I sat in Palmetto Press's crisp Charleston office, my manuscript on the conference table like a time bomb. Facing me were Maggie, Caleb, and their attorney, a no-nonsense man in a tightly fitted suit. Harper was sitting next to me, hands firm in spite of the strain. My publisher, Marcus Tate, rocked back in his chair, unmoved. This is blackmail, the lawyer snapped, pointing at my manuscript. You're defaming a respected family. Marcus raised an eyebrow. It's a memoir about family control, vetted by our legal team, compelling and true. It's fiction, Maggie said, but her nails tapped nervously on the table. Is it? I pulled out my phone, playing a recording from one of Maggie's socialite appointments. Her voice was ringing out clear. Caleb needs my direction, just as his father did. Savannah's filling his head with harmful notions. Caleb's head jerked up. When was that? Last month, I told her, after you became junior partner at Wentworth Properties. Harper stood, putting a USB drive on the table. My therapy sessions, Mom, where I described how you sabotaged my gallery openings, my engagement, everything. I blamed myself until Savannah handed me your journal. Maggie's mask of calmness shattered. I was shielding you. You were manipulating us, Harper declared, voice trembling. And I let you because I was afraid, but Savannah taught me what bravery is. Caleb looked at the table, then at me. The San Francisco tech position 2 years ago. Did you actually pull my application? Maggie's silence was almost palpable. Marcus pushed papers in front of us, bank statements, emails, call logs. The journal was only the beginning, I explained. I had time to burrow while you were freezing my accounts. Maggie's eyes clashed with mine, and for the first time, I saw fear. What do you want? She whispered. Let them go, I said. No more financial strings on Caleb or Harper, no more wrecking her art or his ambitions. Stay out of their lives unless they open the door. You can't prove this, Maggie said, voice tremulous. We can, Marcus confirmed, pointing to the evidence. The book comes out next month unless you sign these. He pushed across papers releasing Caleb's trust fund and Harper's inheritance. Maggie's hands shook as she signed, her empire in shambles. Caleb turned to me, eyes gentler. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I nodded, throat closed. This wasn't about revenge anymore, but freedom for all of us. As Maggie put down the pen, I felt free, as if I'd shed that choking dress forever. 6 months passed, and I was standing in Harper's new art gallery in Charleston's French Quarter, observing Lily and Max set up wildflowers for the opening. My memoir, Strings of Control, landed on the bestseller list, igniting discussions across the country about leaving family patterns behind. Readers emailed me, sharing their own stories of reclaiming their lives, giving me a purpose I'd never known. Harper handed me champagne, her ceramic sculptures gleaming under gallery lights. I sold 3 pieces tonight, she said, grinning. And a commission for a downtown hotel. Mom hasn't called any buyers this time. Caleb was there, across the room, his new beard making him look less like Maggie's polished son and more himself. He'd left Wentworth Properties to launch his tech startup, a risk Maggie never would have allowed. We caught eyes, sharing a nod, not forgiveness yet, but understanding of what we'd lost and gained. My phone buzzed. Tessa. Channel 9, now. I flipped on the gallery's TV, seeing Maggie on a local talk show, discussing her new foundation for families healing from control. She looked older, softer, voice steady. I believed that love was about holding on, but sometimes it is about letting go. I found that out the hard way. Did you know this? I asked Harper. She shook her head. No, but your book transformed her, Savannah. Transformed us all. Marcus arrived with advance copies of my new book, a novel about a woman finding her voice. Folded inside was an envelope from Maggie. I opened it, fingers firm, a picture of my first wedding dress, stored at the shop, and a note. You were right about the strings, Savannah. You didn't break our family, you made us rebuild it stronger. Thanks for the truth. No strings attached. I folded the note away, observing Lily and Max running around Harper's painting, their laughter untrammeled and wild. Caleb toasted me with his glass. I toasted back, the heaviness of my old ring a distant memory. I wasn't prepared for forgiveness, but I was prepared for hope, for penning my next page. The Charleston harbor twinkled outside, palmetto palms swaying in the wind, and I felt grounded, not in Maggie's reality, but in my own. My memoir had exposed her control, but it also built a community. Readers, Harper, even Caleb, finding strength in truth. I stood taller, knowing I'd fought not just for me, but for Lily, Max, and anyone trapped in someone else's story. The moral is that truth cuts deeper than control. Speak it, and you'll free more than yourself. Thanks for watching Revenza Tales, where stories of grit and triumph come alive. Smash that like button, comment below with your comeback stories, and subscribe for more epic stories. Share this with friends who need a dose of courage, and I'll see you in the next story.